Welcome to Obenseuer. Originally known as Obenseuer, these sets of poorly built housing complexes were once an answer to the overwhelming homeless population. At least it was until a strain of deadly mushrooms began to infect the area and everyone living within it. The government quarantined the small city and it became a home to all kinds: homeless, infected, criminals, and simple people who just couldn't make ends meet. I happen to be one of them. Hey, how's it going everyone? It's your boy Wags here, and I wanted to let you in on a few things before I begin my story here. Obenseuer is a survival RPG set in some of the worst conditions. It takes on several harsh themes such as death, addiction, poverty, and even self-harm. In spite of that, this game is a hidden gem in my opinion. It came out back in 2018 and was recently redesigned and overhauled at the end of 2023. It has about 300 reviews on Steam and it's probably one of the most intriguing games I've played in quite a while. So what's the premise? We are a resident of Obenseuer, and based on certain choices we make in the beginning, that reason can differ. However, by some odd chance of error, instead of receiving one small apartment for ourselves, we end up receiving an entire building. From there, it's our job to clean up the place, renovate it, and rent it out to the people living throughout the city. But let me remind you, it's more difficult than you think. We have to worry about hunger, thirst, our mental state, hygiene, and yes, we even have to go to the bathroom. Filled with the wildest types of people and the most bizarre interactions, every day is a struggle and an adventure. If you've heard enough, then so have I, because our story begins on the very first day of our arrival and our entry. It started with 4 interviewers on TV screens asking me questions about my past. Truth is, I was just a poor man with a cat. Nothing special about me, but something wasn't right here. Upon entry into Obenseuer, I was awarded an entire apartment building, which was strange considering the district was said to have an awful housing problem. People needed all the homes they could get, and here I was just given the whole building. They set me up with a map, some cash, and some much needed supplies like water, food, cigarettes, and a rat, I guess. That was it. The front door was straight ahead, and there was no turning back. At first glance, this was a very depressing and off-putting place to live, with plenty of worn-down buildings and fences covered in barbed wire. I immediately ran into an old lady named Tatiana who told me she had been sitting here waiting for her husband, who unfortunately still hadn't arrived yet. She was then kind enough to offer up plenty of advice to help me survive in this unforgiving area. She told me where I could get some free soup down the road, and that I should also start collecting some bottles so I can return them for some coins. The further I stepped into the district, the more I realized how desperate and horrible this place was, and truthfully that would come to be a recurring theme the longer I explored. There were people just living on the streets in tents, huddling for warmth around a fire, which reminded me that I should probably visit and examine the new home I was just given, the tenement. It turns out there's a toll bridge to get across for 10 coins, which I had, but this meant I was going to have to pay this every single time I crossed. And of course, after a long search for another route, I was forced to pay up. There it was, our new home, and man was it a piece of shit. To be fair, I'm sure anyone would be thankful to have a roof over their head in a place like this, but the inside proved to be even more disgusting, with hazardous radioactive bags everywhere and mushrooms growing in the apartments. If I wanted to clean all this up, it was going to take me hours. Some rooms were even still left with furniture and supplies. And one in particular was completely furnished, as if someone lived there. And someone did. His name was Malone. And despite me being the newfound owner of these apartments, he was basically refusing to leave. Instead, he offered up an idea. What if I were to clean up the place, renovate it, and rent it out to some of Obenseuer's most desperate paying citizens in need of a home? He handed me plans to the entire housing project and offered me a few leads on how I can make some quick cash around here. In exchange, Malone gets to stay in his apartment rent-free. But that wasn't going to stop me from using his toilet all the time, which realistically was just a chair with a hole in it and a bucket underneath, but you gotta admit, a makeshift toilet is better than no toilet at all. According to the blueprints, this was my room, and it was going to take a lot of work to get it looking nice, if nice was even a possibility at this point. I only had a couple hours left in the day, so I decided to check out the rest of the surrounding area and this side of the toll bridge before it got too dark. There was an unfinished sauna out back behind the building, if you could even call it that from the looks of the inside, and the basement was barricaded and off limits for the moment. To my surprise, there was actually police around here, and thankfully he let me know it was about 7 p.m. Nearby there was a closed store called the One Stop Shop, and sitting close was another homeless couple camping the streets. Maybe one day I'd be able to offer them an apartment to live in, but for now, I had to worry about myself. I went home to what was only a dirty mattress on the ground and tried to get some sleep, knowing that the second day would be even crazier. I woke up around 4 a.m. and thought it best to walk around and truly get accustomed to the place. Up the road was the Redemption Militia, where their catchphrase was preach, prayers, and pea soup. It was free food after all you had to do was pray for it. That or... no soup for you! I found out that these guys were taking in donations for their soup service, and would you have guessed it, they have one of the nicest homes I've seen around. A functioning kitchen with beds and, oh my god, clean running water. I'm sure due to them being the God-giving people that they are, they didn't mind me filling up all my water bottles from their bathroom sink. If I was going to survive out here, I was going to need money, and Malone pointed me in the direction of a perfect opportunity to get on my feet, a farm owned by the Kurahara brothers. They gave me a job planting seeds and maintaining the plants until they were ready to harvest, which meant I was going to have to stop by here periodically and check on them. The rest of my day was dedicated towards familiarizing myself with the area and seeing what the place really had to offer. And truthfully, I could go on forever about the things I experienced on my second day. Exploring one of the other buildings had me finding a vending machine full of ducks and a staircase topped with bear traps. In the center of the district was a marketplace where all sorts of goods were sold, if the vendor was actually open, that is. Police tape sealed off the entrance to one of the other apartments. I'm not exaggerating when I say there was something to look at everywhere I went. I finally ran into a man called Jonason, another guy Malone told me about. You see, Jonason happens to be one of the best builders around, and he's willing to help fix up our tenement, as long as we supply all the resources and cover the payment. Seems simple enough, but then I looked at the price. How was I supposed to afford these kinds of upgrades when my account looked like this? I was gonna have to take advantage of every opportunity possible, even if it meant committing crime in order to get ahead. In fact, I found the doctor's office on the next floor afterwards and ended up stealing his flashlight, since I was obviously gonna need it more than him. The rest of the building revealed more trashed rooms, and even though there was supplies for the taking, I was more worried about finding a place to shower. Luckily, as I was using this abandoned toilet, I caught sight of exactly what I had been wishing for. After a brisk shower, I headed back to the farm to check on the plants, and I ended up stealing, well, really borrowing this axe. Although I'm pretty sure I got reported for it, but hey, I can't be the only one with a criminal record around here. After another long day of rummaging through the district and its buildings, I once again paid 10 coins to cross the bridge and head home. I unloaded my supplies into this tiny nightstand I had, and I went back to work cleaning up the place. When I was done for the night, most of the scrap and garbage was gone, and I had dragged the mattress into the back room for me to sleep on. The next day I had a routine down. I started the day by cleaning up a little more of the apartments, prayed for some free pea soup, went and used this couple's bathroom again so I could refill my bottles with fresh water, and then I went and checked the plants at the farm. I had some free time in the middle of the day, which led to me discovering this hidden basement entryway. Unfortunately, the person behind the intercom told me I didn't have access here. It left me curious and wondering what lied on the other side, but mysteries like this were all over Obenseuer, and only time would tell if I was going to figure them out. For now, I was just struggling to eat, until I broke into this random caravan and found a fridge stacked to the brim with goods. I just stood right there and stuffed my face full of cheese straight from their fridge, washing it down with some mocha cola before hightailing it out of there. That was when I discovered the O-Mart. Hidden in plain sight, this 24-hour grocery store sat right in the center of the market and had everything you could think of, at an extraordinary price, of course. Meats, cheese, milk, eggs, cleaning supplies, everything. And hidden in the far back corner of the store, the bottle return. But that wasn't all. There was also a lucky slot machine. If I was smart, I would stay far away from this thing. I returned the few bottles that I had on me, got a few coins back, and then made my way home where I kept clearing the place for future renovations. Some of the rooms were even boarded up, and thankfully since I did borrow, this axe, I was able to tear the planks down and clean the rooms inside. However, some were completely walled up as you can see, and we were gonna need something stronger for those. And call me crazy all you want, but I'm pretty sure I found a dead body in one of these rooms. Look, I'm not a detective right now, so I'm just gonna ignore this one. But the good thing about getting to clean all these apartments was that I could take the used furniture back to my own room and set it up. So enjoy watching me turn a dark and depressing room into a comfy, cozy place to live. And this is what it looked like by the time I was done. A nice sleeping quarters with a place to eat and a fridge for food. Don't get me wrong, I still had a ton to do with the rest of the apartment, and the other ones too for that matter. But it felt nice to finally have a place I felt good calling home, even if that home was one tiny room with a fire barrel in the corner. Sometime in the middle of the next day, I wandered over to the Kolhola A building. I hadn't been inside, and it was just one more I was trying to cross off my list, except what I didn't expect was to see a telemarketing company on the 3rd floor. I made my way up and buzzed in, asking if they had any jobs available. Turns out they were hiring, at a whopping 45 coins per hour, depending on performance. Shifts were about 8 hours long, and I could start anytime between 6 and 12. It was too late today, but I was planning on showing up bright and early tomorrow. On the 4th floor was the hostel, which didn't look that bad until I walked through. What first appeared to be a decent home for people to rent turned out to be a packed sardine can of citizens. People were renting out these tiny spaces to live in and sleep, just to escape the dangers of the street. I couldn't blame them, but I knew I could make things better eventually. Lastly, a couple floors up was the money exchange, a place where you could trade coins for real money and vice versa. Of course, at a horribly unfair rate, mind you, but that's how it was living here, and you were reminded of it everywhere you went. I ended the day by returning some more bottles and bringing a few more items home. I set up some bottle cases for collecting and some posters before calling it a night. In the morning, I used Malone's toilet, grabbed some pea soup, and was standing at the telemarketer's front door by 7 o'clock sharp when they buzzed me in. The inside was unnaturally clean compared to what I was used to. Clean bathrooms, clean water dispensers, working computers. It was a little weird. My new coworker Pamela proceeded to rant about selling magazine subscriptions to old people and having to sit through pointless conversations all day. Turns out she's been looking for an apartment too. In the back was a break room type area with a fridge and a microwave. It didn't seem like a bad place to work, until you realize you're sitting at a desk for 8 straight hours. I'd be lucky if any vendors were still open by the time I got out. I made a decent 355 coins on my first day and celebrated by stocking up on a bunch of supplies from the O-Mart. Canned food, cleaning spray. I also stopped by the construction dude and bought a sledgehammer to tear down the rest of the walled up doorways. which again resulted in some useful things like blueprints for building, more canned food, and a portable stove. Not gonna lie, I was really setting up quite a pad for myself, except it all started to go downhill when I forgot to eat after working all day at the telemarketing company. On my way home, I was in overwhelming pain and I knew I needed to see a doctor. I took a number and sat down inside the office. A health exam had me looking terrible according to the doctor, but after some medicine and a checkup, things were looking up. At least until police stopped me on the way to check the plants. The gig was up. My minor crimes of theft had gotten out. The stolen flashlight, the borrowed axe. I swore I was gonna give it all back, but it didn't matter. They locked me up for it. And then they let me right out, because in reality, a cell was probably a better home than the fate subjected to those living in Obenseuer. I guess prison sentences weren't really a thing, just living here was bad enough. But not if I could do something about it. And slowly, I was. This place looked awful when I first got here, and now it's actually starting to look ready for renovations. And maybe soon after, it'll be ready for people. Thanks for joining me in part 1 of what's going to be a long journey to solve the housing crisis here in Obenseuer. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen so far and the job we've started. However, before you go, I want to let my loyal viewers know that I am starting up YouTube memberships, which means if you click the join button down below, for differently priced tiers, you can experience ThatBoyWags content in a whole new way. I'm talking about behind the scenes videos, live gameplay from games you normally wouldn't see on the channel, early access to videos, and so much more. When you join as a member, not only are you supporting the channel, but you're also helping me commit more time to the videos and the community, so it would mean the absolute world to me if you went and checked it out. I've really been enjoying Obenseuer, so if you had a good time watching and you're wondering when the next video is going to be, don't worry, it won't be long. But if you do want to pick it up for yourself, the link will be in the description below, and I highly suggest it because it's very cheap right now, and there's also a content update coming out soon. The dev also gives out early access builds if you ask kindly for it in their Discord, so I'll go ahead and drop that in the description as well. Go ahead and tell them ThatBoyWags sent you. As always, thank you all for watching and staying this far into the video. Let me know down in the comments if you've heard of the game before and what you think of it so far. Other than that, I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you all on the next one.